BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I am Alasdair Lamont and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. It's Thursday the 26th of December, Boxing Day, and in this episode we're focusing on what could, maybe should be a post-Christmas cracker.
Nick Pateta off the bar, but in! It's in! Hibs score! Kikarevich!
Quietly, we've been going about our business. We need to make sure we keep doing the right things, keep improving. But we've now got a very good fixture to look forward to.
Forrest gets the flick onto it! Goal! Equaliser! Hearts level! And a wonderful moment there for the Hearts supporters in behind Poor City's goal!
I've been picturing and visualising the game in my head for a number of weeks, and on Boxing Day I get to experience it.
All eyes are on the capital as Hearts and Hibs meet for the second time this season, and there are more than just bragging rights at stake as the bitter rivals get ready to lock horns again.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
I'm joined for this special Edinburgh Derby preview by two men who have got more than a vested interest, shall we say. Former Hibs defender Ian Murray. Ian, how are you feeling in a word about this Edinburgh Derby?
Excited.
Good show. And also we're joined by Laurie Dunsire, Hearts TV's lead commentator and co-host of the Scarves Around the Funnel podcast. Can I ask you the same question, Laurie? What's the one word that you would use to describe your emotions ahead of this one?
Yeah, always excited. That's two words, I know, but I couldn't just use the same one as Ian.
Okay. Well, before we get into the Hearts and Hibs game, there's a full card of fixtures taking place today. But Celtic, Motherwell, Dundee, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, St Johnstone, Dundee United and St Mirren Rangers. For all the build-up and live coverage of those games, tune into Sportsound on BBC Radio Scotland with the programme on air from midday. But for this episode of the Scottish Football Podcast, as I say, we're going to focus on the first game of the day, Hearts against Hibs, 12:30 kick-off at Tynecastle. Ian, I'm going to start with you because clearly, unlike us, you've got experience of actually playing in these games. What is it like?
Yeah, I think, like I said, they're always the ones you kind of look down the fixture list when they come out and see when the Christmas derby is. Changes now and again, but it was always traditionally, obviously, Boxing Day or New Year's Day. So it's good to have it, I think. Certainly both sides are going into it on back of good wins, that's for sure. Hibs may be more surprising than Hearts going into it on the form that they are going to go into it in. Like I said before, Hibs 4 weeks ago, we're not probably looking forward to this game very much because they knew it is going to be hard regardless. But they're certainly going into it in good form. Supporters are now bubbling away, looking forward to it. That's how quick it changes. Hearts winning their game at the weekend as well means we should be set for a really, really good game, a sellout. Hopefully not too many aperitifs taken on board by the supporters on the day before and the morning of the game, but there tends to be fireworks in this fixture.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite personal memory of the derby?
I'm not sure. I think it was certainly a game, the one that I always enjoyed the most, regardless of the scoreline. I think Hibs and Hearts, deep down, if people are really honest, the rivalry is there. It's never too nasty. It's never going to go overboard, which is great, but there's certainly a deep passion from both sets of supporters, both sets of players in the game. Any derby you win is a fantastic moment, but you also know that you're going to play each other again in about 7 or 8 weeks, and you've always got the chance for revenge, or the opposite way around. But certainly, any derby win was always a great moment as a footballer.
Yeah. Laurie, I guess you'll have probably commentated on a few of these by now. Is there one that stands out for you in your time doing that? Or even just as a fan that you've been at?
I mean, as a fan, you probably you can't think too far past 2012, although that's a bit of an obvious one. Favourites as a fan, probably Phil Stamp's winner at Easter Road, sitting in the Dunbar end, thinking that you're down and out, and probably know that, and I think John Robertson said this before the last derby, Hearts have had a tendency, even when they've played poorly in these games, to somehow dig a result out, whether it's a draw like the last game at Easter Road, or whether it was that game where we not only managed to salvage a draw, but Phil Stamp found a winner. deep into injury time. So that's probably up there as a fan. We've had some interesting ones recently. I guess the big one was, I guess, the recent ones at Hampden in terms of recent ones commentating. A couple of seasons ago, Stephen Kingsley scoring that cracker as well as Ellis Sims. I think that was a big one for Robbie Nielsen and for Hearts at the time. So yeah, thankfully we've had a few enjoyable ones, especially in recent years. Only one defeat, I think, the last 15, but it's a hard one to call, I would say, this one coming up on Boxing Day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But how important was it for Neil Critchley and Hearts to get that win under their belt beforehand with the narrow, but I would say, I think most people would acknowledge it was a deserved win over St Johnstone.
Header away, breaks the edge of the box. Spittle! Oh, what a strike that is from Blair Spittle. We talked about it in the first half, that he's got that ability. It fell to him and he drilled it home. Absolutely.
The St Johnstone win was crucial because Hearts were off the back of probably their two worst performances under Neil Critchley against Kilmarnock and Petrolcube. And as Ian points out, Hibs have suddenly changed it around. You think a month ago, Hibs are probably dreading this game and Hearts are feeling a bit better about it. But 3 wins in 4 games for Hibs. And the game that they lost was away to Celtic, which most people will take as a pretty expected result. But they've scored 3 goals in those other 3 games. So suddenly Hibs were feeling quite good about this game, and they still will be. So Hearts really needed a result. The fans turned on the team a little bit after the European game, and you can understand it after the 2 performances. So to show a bit more resilience, a bit more tempo, a bit more aggression in the St Johnstone game to win. And they performed really well in the first half. And you're right, Alasdair, it was a deserved victory, albeit they had to dig in the second half. So I think to show that resilience, to show a bit more about them going forward and to get the 2 goals and to win, absolutely crucial, both for the players' confidence, but I think for the fans as well. Hopefully they'll have a little bit more patience in the derby, but Ian will know better than anyone that patience will probably not be offered very much from both sets of fans in this one. Expectations will be high regardless of form or league position. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a cauldron, and I think both sets of fans will now go into this thinking this is a game that we should win and they'll want to win.
It's a poor ball, picked up well, Triantis. Chance here for Martin Boyle, levels up, Boyle! One mistake and Aberdeen are undone. And it's joy for Martin Boyle.
Ian, you've already touched on it, but I mean, Hibs, after that victory at Pittodrie, and obviously it has been just a general upturn in their fortunes in the last 2 or 3 weeks, they will surely go to Tynecastle feeling, well, if we can go up and beat Aberdeen 3-1, there's no reason we can't go and take the 3 points off Hearts either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's normal. You go to somewhere like Pittodrie, who Aberdeen are not obviously done really well this season, to go and score 3 goals and also win the game, gives Hibs a lot of confidence going into the game. I think Hibs know, and it's going to be a hard game. Like Laurie said, it is going to be a cauldron. That's what happens on derby days. That's what happens, particularly around Christmas. It's just the way it is, regardless of form, regardless of how the teams are playing. That's what happens. So Hibs have to go and deal with that. Hearts have to deal with that as well. On the flip side, I would say, and again, I've seen a lot more of Hibs than I have of Hearts this season. I don't think any team will be scared of each other, put it that way. I don't see anything in both teams that's going to blow you away, that's going to give defenders nightmares at night before the game, not sleeping in terms of that. I think both teams will firmly believe, I'm talking about the players, firmly believe they can go and win the game, and supporters will be saying exactly the same. If it was a score draw, would it surprise me in any way? Not at all. If Hibs won, would it surprise me more than it would be if Hearts won? But I still think it can go either way.
I think everyone acknowledges that Tynecastle and the atmosphere that can be created there is almost second to none in Scottish football. It's really brilliant to be part of the big game there at times. But the flip side of that, I suppose, as we've seen in recent weeks, is that when things aren't going to plan, if you like, for the home side, that the crowd can turn like I guess any support can. Ian, I just wonder, can Hibs try and almost play on that a little bit? If they can frustrate the home fans, get them to turn on the team a little bit at the outset of the derby? Yeah,
I think they can. I think it'll be one thing in the team talk that we've all heard 100 times, especially at Ibrox and at Parkhead in particular. But I think you can We use Tynecastle as an example as well. If you can get the supporters turning on the team, which again we have to acknowledge that they can do. Like you said, as good as the atmosphere is at Tynecastle when it's going right, it can go the opposite way. Hearts fans are very demanding. They demand not just to win games, they demand to win games well. And it can change quickly. So Hibs will have to use that to advantage. You need to use everything you can, every percentage you can possibly gain in these games to your advantage. But certainly, we know if it goes well for Hearts, we know how big and how up the crowd can get for it. But the Hibs fans will go there and find voice as well. As I say, around that Christmas period, I don't think the 12:30 kickoff's going to make any difference whatsoever to, like I said, what happens before the game.
I mean, I think over the course of probably all their lifetimes, Hearts have generally, I mean, they have had the upper hand, no doubt. The statistics tell you that. More often than not, Laurie, they've found a way to win a derby. How big for Neil Critchley could a derby victory be in terms of just a platform to go and try and build on and buy him a little bit more credit with the fans?
I think it's huge because both sets of supporters put huge emphasis on the Edinburgh derbies, of course, and it worked against Robbie Neilson, for instance, in his first tenure, and he had to kind of win a few big derbies to win that back because he lost a pivotal derby in the end, and it happened to be the season that Hibs went on to win the Scottish Cup, and many people didn't forget that, regardless of Hearts finishing third and doing well otherwise. So, I mean, the last derby, Hearts played very poorly, and to be honest, and they were bailed out with a late James Wilson goal. I thought it was actually quite a poor game on the whole, but Hearts certainly didn't turn up. So I think this is crucial for Neil Critchley, but it's interesting. Hearts have a great record in the derby. They've only lost one of the last 15, but it's been a lot of tight games. 4 of the last 5 games have been draws. So although Hearts have managed to avoid defeat in these, the games have been pretty close, and I don't think it'll be much different on Thursday. So it might come down to those little moments, match winners, be that a Martin Boyle or an Ellie Ewan for Hibs, or on Hearts side if Shanklin can find his feet again.
Wolfish tries to let it go out of play. It didn't do so. Ginelli's kept the ball in. Chance shot. Goal for Hearts. On the follow-up. And that was all down to the work of Cammy Devlin. Then Josh Ginelli. His shot pushed away by Marshall. Straight down the middle to Lauren Shanklin. It's 2-2.
Blair Spittle's been in fine form. So I think it'll be a tight game. It's going to be fine margins. But I think for Neil Critchley, this will be massive. This set of fixtures coming up are huge because some of the Hearts fans, they're giving him time, but he's maybe not shown enough consistently yet for them to say, yep, he's definitely our man. You can't judge him too much at this point because he's not using his team yet. He needs a transfer window, but we've had some ups and we've had some downs. What we need now is a consistent run of performances and results. So you win the derby, the fans will give you a few more games, a bit more leeway, and they'll, I guess, back you. You don't win the derby, even if you then have a few good results, that'll always be in the back of their mind, nagging away that, well, we lost the Hibs, and we lost the Hibs at Tynecastle. And bizarrely, it's actually been the away side who've often favoured a bit more in these games. Hearts' last 2 wins in the derby were at Easter Road. So the last few years, when there has been winners, it's often been the away team. And I don't know if that's just systematic of maybe neither side taking a grip of these games fully, the crowd maybe getting a bit nervous and the away team taking advantage. But it's going to be a tricky one because the away end will be noisier at the start, and it's what it tends to be. And then it's the Hearts fans will come in as the game goes on. Same with Easter Road, the away end will be bouncing. So atmosphere, energy will play a big part in it. And yeah, I'm excited. A bit nervous as well, but you always get an element of that.
Absolutely. Laurie mentioned a few individuals there. Ian, in terms of Hibs, who do you see as being the kind of key players?
It really depends on how Hibs or who Hibs go with, if I'm being honest. I think up until the last few weeks, defence has been really, really ropey. The goalkeeper situation has not helped at all. It seemed to maybe touch wood sort of out a little bit. I still think Hibs do their best work at the top end of the park. I think if Gale has come in and shown his experience.
Back with Triantis. Hoylett's in space. Pick out a teammate in the middle. It's glanced on, it's glanced in by Gale. In the final seconds of the first half, Hibs are level. And it's Dwight Gale getting on the score sheet for just the second time in a Hibs shirt.
Hoylett, when I've seen him, has been really, really good. Johan is an enigma.
Down here, and here's Boyle, right hand side of the box. Civic doesn't get on. It's another chance, another goal! Eli Johan scores again. 2 goals in just over a minute for Hibs. 2 goals in just over a minute for Eli Johan. And they have sensationally squared this Edinburgh derby in the blink of an eye here at Tynecastle. The supporters on the pitch as well in celebration. A quite sensational turn of events here. It really is. And Eli Johan has announced himself spectacularly in this game.
Sometimes he's unplayable in both senses, because you have to play him and you don't know what he's doing. Other times you can't play him because he's not doing his job. Just to touch on what Laurie had said there, I didn't realise Hibs had only won 1 in 15, but I have to say, I thought the standard of the last few derbies had been really, really bad. I was at the New Year's one last season when Shanklin scored in the last minute.
Bashiri's lost up the other end here. Shanklin's in! Scores! Shanklin scores! Hibs have given it away! Rocky Bashiri culpable! And Lawrence Shanklin does it again! And sends the maroon and white half of Edinburgh into ecstasy! It's a brilliant finish from Shanklin, arching it to the top left corner. Hibs are heartbroken.
In person, that's the worst derby I've ever seen. Standard-wise, quality-wise, it was really, really bad. I wasn't at the game at Easter Road, but by all accounts, I watched it, and people that were there were saying it was worse, which I find hard to believe. So I hope the game is just better. I hope it gets back to the standards of Edinburgh derbies that we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years, where there's a little bit of drama, a little bit of quality from somebody somewhere, and an enjoyable game, because the Edinburgh derby is a fantastic fixture for both sets of supporters, for Scottish football. It needs to get back to a level where it deserves to be. But I certainly think if Hibs go with that front three, if they play that formation 4-3-3, I think that can cause teams a lot of bother. I think you've got to pin the Hearts full backs back, or you've got to maybe gamble a little bit and let them go and hit them on the counter attack, which, if Hearts are brave enough at home to go and push their full-backs high, which they've done pretty much all season, so I don't see that changing, then I think Hibs can kill them on the counter-attack a little bit.
Laurie, of course, you did mention Lawrence Shanklin, and I mean, he has been a man for the big occasion, hasn't he, in recent times, albeit that, clearly this season he's not having the best time of it, but you wouldn't back against him popping up with a big moment in the derby, would you?
You wouldn't, but it's not really happened for him this season. And, he's still had moments, he's still had games where he's doing a bit in terms of interplay. I was thinking, as the game's always interesting, what you were saying there in terms of, I will be interested to see, I know Hibs have kind of switched to more of a 3 at times in recent games, which is, and the two Caddens have been given a bit more width, which I'll be interested to see how that works if they do deploy that at Tynecastle. Hearts have had some defensive issues themselves. Craig Halkett didn't play in a St Johnstone game. They're hoping he'll be able to make the derby. But like Hibs, Hearts have looked a bit soft at the back. I think both teams have had their struggles defensively. So I'll be quite interested to see if Hibs can exploit Hearts in the wide areas, because, Hearts' main threat has been down that left. I think Penrice and Spittle combining could be quite interesting. So, you talk about Shanklin and Johan, it could be in those wide areas that both sides kind of get the best of the game, and that could be where it's kind of won and lost. I know Hibs have got a couple of concerns at the time of recording in terms of injuries, so I don't know if they'll have a couple of players out, but in terms of the width, I think that could be where it's quite interesting. I think both teams in the centre of the park have got some good ball winners, but maybe not that spark to open up defences. So I think it could be the wide areas. I don't know if Ian would agree on that. I could think wide areas and how they supply those front players and how teams are in transition, because I think Hibs have been very good in transition recently. I think for me, that could be where this derby's won and lost, and you could pick out players on both sides that could make the difference from both a positive and a negative sense in those areas of the pitch.
Yeah, it was interesting when you were saying that, Laurie. I was thinking to myself, goodness me, in a derby game, we're talking about the game's won in the wide areas. Normally it's all about blood and thunder, middle of the park. Can we get the ball to our talisman or our flare men to go and cause damage? And now we're talking about, can we get the ball out wide and supply our striker? So the game's completely...
Famous last words, I know.
yeah. So, but maybe it's correct, because, sometimes midfield gets bypassed anyway in these sort of games, particularly early on. But again, I think it's sign of the times and how it's changing. Even in derby games that we're talking about, getting the ball wide, kind of full backs get forward. Normally, like I say, it's that midfield four normally against that midfield four. Who's going to come out on top? And normally the team that wins the middle of the park battle goes on to win the game. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Right, well, I'm going to have to coax a prediction out of both of you. I'm pretty sure I know which way this is going to go. Laurie, the home team, you can go first.
I mean, it's the Edinburgh derby, it's at Tynecastle. I know there's been a lot of draws, but I would never live it down if I predicted anything but a Hearts win. I think it'll be tight. I'm going to go for the same scoreline in Hearts' last game, which is a 2-1 home win. Not much in it, plenty of ups and downs, plenty of cards and tackles. So yeah, 2-1 Hearts for me.
Ian?
Yeah, I think there'll be goals. I actually hope there will be. I think Hibs will score. That's for sure at Tynecastle, and I'm going to go for a 2-2.
Well, we shall see. It'll be interesting, no doubt, one way or the other. That's all we've got time for, but many thanks to Laurie Dunsire and Ian Murray. Thank you for listening. Remember, Sports Sound is on BBC Radio Scotland from midday with all the live action. Sports Scene will have all the highlights this evening, and you can watch Open All Mics on the BBC Scotland channel from 4. We're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so to make sure you don't miss out, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Bye for now.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.